My name is Vas. I'm founder and CEO of Logiplan, and today I would like to talk with you about direct ordering. And hopefully we'll arrive at a situation where we have some, sad aggregator guys sitting out there, and you guys getting all the margins from all those direct orders. So before we jump into that, quick question: does anyone remember this thing? Yeah, raise a hand. That's Motorola Razr. I think everyone owned that sometime before. This actually is the beginning of my journey. I worked in mobile devices industry in company Motorola. I was responsible for this thing, so I was partially responsible as well. And one day I was just walking down the street, and some of those shops gave me one of those crappy flyers on the street, and I had this idea: why the hell all those brands are communicating with me in this sort of a Stone Age way? That was the beginning for, that's why I decided to found this company. And basically what I really live and breathe, what we fight for, is to convert some situation like this, where everything went wrong, thanks to things like apps and CRM and all this stuff, to something like this. Basically creating happiness and rewarding customer experiences for millions of customers all around the world. Also, what I'm really passionate about is for our team to partner with awesome innovators, like those guys who used to be unknown for the US market, and they became basically the brand number 5 in the United States thanks to the partnership we did with them. So basically becoming rock stars of the US restaurant market. And before I start, some of the thoughts where these insights from this presentation are coming from. So basically, we've been in the market for about 10 years and building app solutions, CRM solutions, and was quite successful in 20 plus countries, stuff like that. But basically the main point is that we're always learning about what's happening with the industry, how restaurants are succeeding or not succeeding in, for example, switching orders to direct ordering. Some of the examples here, for example, UK pizza chain who successfully converted tons of orders to direct ordering, and because of that became top 5 UK pizza chain. And they started with 3 locations, and right now they're going like crazy. So some of the examples where we got this experience from. Also, some of the other slides, I won't go into details, and they're actually they're pretty small, but I will just keep that. Basically, what we always care about numbers and graphics, and that's what this presentation definitely was based around. A/B test is also a good thing. So whenever we're launching a project, we're usually trying to have a control groups, just like they test vaccines today. And to measure the effectiveness of the app, of the CRM system, and all those things. So, long story short, those insights in this are coming from real experience, which I'll be happy to share with you guys. And the main question we ask is, hey, what difference the whole school were who are getting 90%, 80%, 60% of the orders switching from aggregators to direct ordering, and those guys who just have 3%, 5% of the orders going directly instead of aggregators. What is really the difference? What really makes a difference? And in order to understand that, just a couple of insights from the market. As you know, we're actually based in the US, and so lots of examples are from that, but I think everything that happens in the US will happen everywhere in the world in just a couple of years. So look at those slides, they're super important, and this will be here maybe in just a year or a year and a half. Well, first of all, everybody is launching direct ordering. All the brands in the world are, I can't imagine any brand which would not launch direct ordering in addition to third-party delivery ordering. Also, the big reason for that is, if you ask guys from McKinsey, clearly aggregators destroying your margins. I think somebody of you may have experienced that. No secrets there. And I will just click through this slide, but there are many stories of restaurants hating aggregators because they took such huge commissions, converting to digital ordering, direct digital ordering, and having challenges there. But in the end of the day, we see that customers, based on, again, research in the years, but I think this translates greatly to any other countries, including Middle East countries. If you ask customers, hey, do you prefer ordering directly or through some kind of third-party ordering, you get this blue thing which says, yes, I want to order directly, and the right thing, which is, I prefer to order through aggregators. And there are many reasons for that, but the fact is the customers are ready to order directly if you would give them this kind of option. This again is only true for the United States, those stats, and I'm 100% sure that the same picture the same graph, the same slide would be true for everybody, including Middle East. So stay tuned for that. Also, last but not least, is that if you look at the actual numbers, like the fresh numbers of from the latest US research of how much orders the biggest brands are successfully switched to direct ordering out of aggregators, it's usually something like 60 or maybe 70%. So they're saving tons of money on switching those orders to direct ordering. And some of the brands like Panera Bread, one of the big ones, they decided to get rid of aggregators like from day one, and only right now they're adding them as like third additional option to find some additional customers. Good question is, so imagine there's a restaurant chain in UAE which says, okay, Vas, awesome, we want to switch to direct ordering, but I launch some kind of app or website, chat, whatever it is, social networking plugin, whatever it is to give my customers an option to do those orders directly. But I'm getting like 3% of all the orders coming through this channel. What the hell? Like, what's the problem here, and what do we need to fix? And we, throughout those years, actually, especially through last COVID years, we were thoroughly experimenting on this with this question and asking restaurants and educating myself what really you have to do, what's really the secret sauce for direct ordering success. So the main point here is, like, if you're not achieving those results yet, maybe you are missing some pieces of the puzzle that are out there that you have to follow in order to do these things right, because all those brands they're actually following this secret sauce that I'm going to share with you right now. So basically what we want at the end of the day, we want all of our customers, we want to own the relationship with all of our customers, and because of that, through direct ordering, get the margins that we deserve. So this is like a picture of happiness. But in fact, what really happens is that most of the time restaurants are just getting this one piece of the puzzle, which is just provide a direct ordering channel with like nice user experience, and that's it. That's what we see where most of the restaurants are not succeeding with switching to direct ordering, because they just do this piece of the puzzle. And there are 8 other pieces of the puzzle, and it's really important to have all those pieces together. And I'm going to talk about them right now. Basically, piece number 1, we still need to cover that, because that's really the basics. If that doesn't work, nothing else would work. It's really provide direct ordering with a great user experience that really checks all the boxes. So, like, the wrong way to do that is to have a user experience with like a sort of like a chat when somebody chats with WhatsApp, or maybe some small widget with like back graphics without pictures and stuff like that. So basically, there are some basic, like, hey, use gorgeous pictures, have all the modifiers for your dishes, have the menu synchronized with your POS system, so the prices would be up to date and stuff like that. Also use upsell for the ordering. Use some kind of quick payment option like Apple Pay, Google Pay, remembering credit card and stuff like that. So I won't go through the details. Actually, I think the presentation will be shared, so you'll be able to see all of that. But there is a playbook for the basics of digital ordering. And if you don't have any of those checkboxes, you're in trouble in terms of digital ordering. So just make sure you do the basics right. Otherwise, lacking one of those points could ruin the whole thing, forever. So we did the basics. What's the second point? The second point is it's a bit more strategic. I would say a lot more strategic. So what we need to understand that winning this direct ordering battle is not like a tactical, some tactical trick that you have to do. It's more like a chess game. You have to think, 2-3 turns ahead. So what we see usually restaurants are doing, they're not composing their strategy to win in direct ordering from the perspective of different segments of the customer base. So the way successful restaurants are doing, what they're doing is they're identifying different segments of customers, and they first focusing on those who already have some relationship with the brand. For example, the folks who are already ordering through your direct app or website, whatever it is, we have one more order per week and stuff like that. The other segment that we need to target, but target differently, so that's a different strategy for different segments, is the folks who have ordered once, but they then stopped ordering. And if you would be really measuring how many customers you have like that, I think you will be shocked. And whenever we're working with our customers, we always see that they go, oh, like why these guys are not ordering? Good question. So, and there is ways how to fix that, and I'll be talking about them a bit later. Also, not applicable for everybody, but obviously not for dark kitchens, but most of the brands still have some in-store presence, and despite the COVID, there are still some traffic. And the other channel that is usually missed is really converting the guys who are sitting right there in your restaurant or walking in and ordering. And it's a really missed opportunity because those guys are already there. They trusted you to walk in and order something. And if any customer walks out of the door without your app and without ordering after that, it's it really is a missed opportunity. So next one, obviously, orange, for a reason, obviously, it's getting those customers for aggregators, because those guys, most of the time, those guys are actually your customers who are just ordering for aggregator because they have all the basics checked and they providing some discounts and stuff like that. So those 4 segments are important, and for each segment you want to have a different strategy to communicate with those folks. What is a mistake here is really what we always see again and again and again. Restaurant owner going to the market and saying, "Hey, I want more direct orders. Here's a bunch of money for you. Please make that happen." And the marketer goes to Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, and starts spending tons of money on that, and really having a very poor conversion, really throwing away quite a lot of money. So the strategic point here is if we have a question how we would get 1,000 dirhams of direct orders, there is option number 1, which is extremely cheap comparing to the other version and cost efficient, and the other version which is super expensive. So the point here is before you even try to think about going to the right part of the slide with the gray area where every customer is cold, so means super expensive for you to acquire that customer, think about have you done everything with those 4 different segments, 4 different categories of customers, and do you have a specific strategy for each one of those segments of those customers? So going ahead, actually, we'll be going back to that picture because it's really important to think strategically about this game plan. So in terms of aggregators, this orange opportunity field right there, it's really important to clearly specify the app USP, unique selling proposition. So you have to tell directly, hey, download our app and get this awesome reward for the first order. Or please order directly. It would help us to save our business. Actually, this worked quite well for some of the restaurants during COVID. Just be honest and tell as it is. Hey, we're sick and tired of those fees, so please order directly. Sometimes it helps. That means loyalty. Obviously explaining the idea of the loyalty program. So there are many reasons to convince customers to order directly. And as shown in this graph from the United States, customers more and more, they really want to order directly because it's your brand. You have a power of the brand and you need to leverage that to convince customers to order directly. So the other point with the other segment, again, the next segment here, is converting in-store visitors. And really is a missed opportunity. Every customer who walks out of your store without an app and who doesn't make an order after that, it's a really missed battle. You have to fight for that. So what's usually missed is really your staff, your employees at the store. They have to be your advocates for the brand. So what could be done, which actually worked quite well for a couple of customers we work with, is, for example, for QSR business and especially for table service as well, give out those kind of business cards to those waiters or cashiers with special promo code. And the cashier says, hey, if you use this promo code, you'll get a reward next time or for this order. And also on the back of the side, there's QR code for sending some tips to that waiter or cashier. It actually worked incredibly well, and especially if you could connect your system with some promo codes and you could measure the statistics and you could figure out, okay, those guys came from this employee. You can actually reward your employees if those customers are making purchases. And please do that because that really helps to promote the app, and there is no better person in the world to promote your app when customers in store than your employee who would love to sell your brand and this app. And just try to use that. It worked pretty well for some of those brands who really succeeded in getting those direct numbers up. The next slide, the point number 5, is create a delightful and awesome rewarding experience as opposed to transactional bargain hunting and discounting. Really, discounting is really bad for your business. It's really bad, and if you incentivize customers with huge discounts, they really would want discounts, again and again and again. And what really worked for many of those brands who succeeded in converting their orders to direct orders is really the playing on the emotional level. And especially if you look at the graph at the lower left side of the slide, this is basically the difference between the previous generation and the new millennials generation, which is basically the most economically active folks, customers from 20 to 40 years who are spending the most of the money on the market right now, the most active customers right now. And if you see blue thing on the chart is the emotional experience. So for previous generations, maybe the rational decision making were more the thing. For those guys, it's really all about emotional experience. So you can give someone find a mom with kids among your customers, and you could give them 30 dirhams, reward or something like that as sort of a discount. And you could do the same thing, spending less, but saying, hey, free ice cream, this Sunday for your kid or something like that. This ice cream would cost you 10 times less than providing this discount, but it would have 10 times more emotional value and would obviously lead to better results and better conversion, and you not spending tons of money as opposed to be, if you be spending that on to acquire cold customers. So the point number 6 is really not just show the menu and communicate. And this is really the mistakes that lots of brands are just doing. They're just putting there the menu, and they're expecting customer to just use this menu. Do you remember vending machines? And you could go there and actually in Holland, I think, you could go there and buy beer in a vending machine. But that would be completely different from going to a bar and buy the same bottle of beer and enjoying it with a friend. Product is the same, but experience is completely different because one thing is just buying stuff and the other thing is really communication, engagement, and stuff like that. So what we really recommend to do is not just to have a menu, have all the basics right, payment, blah, 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 all this stuff, but also communicate with the customers. So sharing some news, offers, telling them about the brand, really communicating with the customer, and for that you obviously need to have some gorgeous pictures, push messages and stuff like that. It works pretty well. So Sumo Sushi is actually one of the brands in UAE who does that quite well. The last point, one of the last points, but definitely not least, is print money with launching win-back campaigns. And I really can't stress enough how important that is, because that's why I put here print money. Because this is really the best money printing opportunity that you ever have with the business. I really do believe that, because if you really would look at your CRM system, and if you really would make a huge penetration for your customers, so you ensure many of the customers would be using the app, you would see that you would come to numbers like 2,000 customers who are lapsed. And if you would just convert some small number of that, you would be able to really print money out of nothing, just sending a win-back reward to one of those, to all those customers, and then really making money out of that. So very good strategy to send win-back reward to those folks who are not coming anymore. Other thing is really cross the chasm of the second direct order. And if you look at your statistics, which definitely we did for many times for many customers, you would see that there is a sort of a chasm after the first order. So if somebody made an order the first time, they're 27% more likely to make other orders. But if somebody did the order 3 times, they're twice as more likely to enjoy the brand going on. So what could be done here is with marketing automation, for example, for each order, for the first order that customers make, give them a reward saying, hey, come back to us in 7 days, and you'll be having this awesome dessert added to your order. It works incredibly well. So hit the iron while it's hot, just right after the customer made an order, just send them that reward. But obviously that has to be done in an automated way, and that has to be a little bit in time and all stuff like that. And the last but definitely not least, I talked about those campaigns and again, printing money with win-back campaigns, but it's really impossible to succeed in that and have great results if you're not following all the rules of those app campaigns. So I won't go into details, but basically, and actually if you want, we could maybe chat after that, but there are basically like 11 rules of the right campaigns. For example, one of the trickiest ones is like send reminders about the offer. And what we see in our statistics is that almost 40 to 50% of customers, 40 to 50% of your customers will be using your offer at the last day of the campaign. So says something about us as humans, but basically this is what happens. So if you will not send that notification reminder at the last day, you will lose 50% of those money that you can print with those campaigns. So there are some rules to that, and we'd be happy to share that separately, but there are some rules that you need to follow. For example, send a push message at the right place at the right time. For example, sending a push message at 11 a.m. would be bad because everybody sends them at 11 a.m. So send something like 11:05, something like that. So then there are hundreds of those secrets that you have to follow in order to make it work. So finally, the summary here is focused not just on the first thing, which is just, okay, we'll launch this chat ordering or the app. There are 8 points to that you have to think about, you have to fix, otherwise you would not be getting those awesome numbers in direct orders, simply as that. So again, think strategic, focus on those 4 key segments and consider a different strategy for all those 4 key segments, and not throw everything at those cold leads and cold customers. Clearly communicate your app USP for aggregators. Then make sure your app actually isn't useless in the store. So make sure that you can, customer can get some points in the app. Again, hit the iron while it's hot when the customer is in your store, and literally pay your employees to promote the app in store. Then create a delightful and rewarding experience other than transactional discounting. So make sure you're talking about rewarding loyalty program and not just bargain hunting and discounts. Then don't just show your menu, communicate. Then print money with launching win-back campaigns, and cross that chasm with automated marketing. Actually, point number 9 should be all those 11 steps of the campaign, but you already know that.